Hey, what's going on, guys? This Saturday is UFC 296 and Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington, and this is going to be my full card predictions. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card and give you a quick breakdown and prediction. Starting off with the first fight of the night, we have Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikhov. This is a matchup that I think could go either way, but I have to go with Randy Brown on this one. He's younger, he's longer, he's taller. He has a massive youth advantage, 6-year youth advantage, 4-inch height advantage, 8-inch reach advantage. And I just don't think either one of these guys is top tier level UFC caliber fighter, but I don't think either one of them is like super bottom of the barrel. And then when I look at their skill sets, both of them primarily strikers. I think Salikhov has a little bit of a grappling advantage, but he's primarily like a kicker who likes to use a lot of spinning techniques. And I just see Randy Brown as being faster on the feet, longer, has a massive reach advantage, has a height advantage, and, is just younger overall. And then I look at, his most recent fights. You look at his last 5 fights, 4-1, only lost to Jack de la Maddalena. You look at Muslim Salikhov, 3-2 in his last 5, lost to Nicholas Dalby, which is honestly aged quite okay considering Dalby what he did to Bonfim. And then 2 fights ago got KO'd by Li Jingliang, and his only win in his last 3 is against Andre Fialho, who turned out to be a dead body. So I don't trust Salikhov. I think he would have to go in and really mix in the grappling and out-grapple Randy Brown. But Randy Brown, just being so tall and long and rangy, I think he can keep the distance. I think he can outstrike him. I think it could be a close fight if Salikhov starts mixing in the clinch and mixing in the takedowns, but that's not really what he's known for. So I see Randy Brown getting it done. I'm going to say Randy Brown 29-28 decision over Muslim Salikhov. Moving up on the card, we have Shamil Gaziev versus Martin Buday. This is a super low-level heavyweight fight. You have Gaziev coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. Literally, look at his Dana White Contender Series picture. Has the same exact body as me, basically. He's 11-0, undefeated, 10 wins via finish. Martin Buday, he's 13-1, coming off wins over Josh Parisian and his butt crack, Jake Collier, Lucas Stresky. It's just bottom of the barrel heavyweight division. And honestly, I do see Buday getting a little bit better. He likes to use his volume and pressure, and he has okay grappling. He went out there and Kimura Josh Parisian in his last fight. But Gaziev has pretty good grappling. He has good power on the feet, and he's not scared to trade. And I just see him going out there, catching Martin Buday on the feet and brutally KOing him. I mean, Buday's getting caught against Josh Parisian, getting caught against Jake Collier, eating some shots there. And I think Gaziev has a different level of power than either of those two guys. So I could see Gaziev going out there and maybe he gasses out. Maybe Buday puts the pressure on him because Buday does have decent stamina and decent pressure, especially for the heavyweight division. But I think, Shamil Gaziev, nasty pressure, nasty power, not the greatest fighter, but heavyweight's a super low level, in terms of skill level. I'm going to go Gaziev to clip him in the first round, put him down, finish him off with ground and pound. I just think Gaziev has a power advantage, and I think he will find that shot. Even if he's losing, even if Buday is kind of backing him up a little bit and putting volume on him, I think he'll be able to find that kill shot where Buday doesn't really have any power at all, which is surprising for the heavyweight division. So I see Gaziev getting it done via brutal first-round KO. Moving up on the card, we have Andre Fili versus Lucas Almeida. This is actually a banger of a matchup. I'm really looking forward to this fight. Andre Fili has been around forever. Just to show you his level of experience and who has he fought over the years that he's been in the UFC, Max Holloway actually was there live for that fight. Fought Yair Rodriguez, fought Calvin Kattar, fought Michael Johnson, Sadiq Youssef, Bryce Mitchell, and Nathaniel Wood as well in his most recent fight. Andre Fili's been around for a while. Lucas Almeida, been in the UFC for 2 fights, doesn't have very good grappling, got absolutely mauled in his last fight against Pat Sabatini and finished. I'm going Andre Fili here. I think Andre Fili has a grappling advantage here. I think he's super gritty and, decent on the feet as well. Can take a shot to land a shot. Hurt Nathaniel Wood in his last fight where a lot of people thought Nathaniel Wood was going to go out there and get an easy win. And you could even make a case, for Andre Fili in that fight as well. I know he's losing fights, but you look at his losses, Nathaniel Wood, Joe Anderson Brito, Bryce Mitchell, not bad losses to have at all. Where you look at Lucas Almeida getting dominated by Pat Sabatini, not that long ago on Dana White's Contender Series, losing to Daniel Zellhuber. And I think Andre Fili has good boxing, has good wrestling, has good jiu-jitsu. I think he can go out there and, use all, his well-rounded skill set, box him up, mix in the wrestling if he starts losing on the feet. And I think Lucas Almeida really has to go out there, stuff the takedown, and use combinations and find shots to really hurt Fili and maybe put him away. But, he doesn't have very good takedown defense. So even if he's out striking Fili, I think Fili can mix in the takedowns, beat him up on the ground, and use his jiu-jitsu to control him and maybe even find a submission. I'm going to go Andre Fili. I'm going to say he gets it done via decision. But I could see him getting a KO. I could see him getting a submission win here. I'm going to say maybe Almeida squeaks out a very close round. Maybe, one of the judges have it 29-28 decision. But I think Fili's going to clearly win this fight. Moving up on the card, we have Tagir Ulanbekov versus Cody Durden. This is an interesting matchup, a very interesting fight on the prelims. Tagir is a pretty good fighter. He's coming off that win over Nate Maness where he submitted him. Fight before that, lost to Tim Elliott. Got out-wrestled against Tim Elliott in that fight and got beat up in that fight. Has a win over Alan Nascimento, which is a pretty solid win. Before that, a win over Bruno Silva. So, not the greatest of wins. 14-2 overall. Cody Durden on a four-fight winning streak. In his last fight, beat Jake Hadley. It was a pretty competitive fight. Jake Hadley had some moments, but Cody Durden, I believe it was the first and third round, was clearly in control. And Jake Hadley had some moments in the second, which probably stole him that round. But for the most part, Durden was in control of that fight. You look at the fight before that, Charles Johnson, Carlos Mota, not the greatest wins, but I think what this fight comes down to is a lot of people are going to see Tagir Ulanbekov and they're going to say, oh, he's Russian, must be an excellent grappler. His striking, honestly, is probably better than his grappling. He's got a good jab. It's not the greatest striking ever, but his grappling isn't that great, He has decent submission ability, but he's getting taken down by Tim Elliott. Meanwhile, you have Cody Durden, who comes out, really tries to just force the takedowns, has good stamina, is relentless. I'm going to go Cody Durden via decision. I could see Cody Durden getting caught in a guillotine, shooting in on a sloppy takedown, but he avoided the submissions against Jake Hadley in his last fight. I think he's going to avoid the submissions against Tagir in this fight, and I think he'll be able to out-wrestle him, get positional control, land some ground and pound. I don't think it's going to be a pretty fight. I think if it stays on the feet, if Ulanbekov can stuff the takedowns and keep it on the feet, I think he could outbox Cody Durden and land on the feet and pump the jab and use straight punches, because Cody Durden kind of lunges in with looping shots and it's kind of sloppy. But I could see Durden getting some control time, beating him up on the ground, and having the better gas tank. So I'm going to go Cody Durden. I'm going to say 29-28 decision. Maybe Cody Durden loses the first round, but then Tagir starts to slow down, loses the second and third, getting out grappled, and then he's worried about the takedown, so Durden's landing shots on the feet. And I just think Durden, gritty and just scrappy, and he'll keep looking to, if he gets stuffed on one takedown, he'll transition to a different attempt and he'll chain takedown attempts together. And I think he'll overwhelm Tagir and just be able to control him a bit and be able to eke out a 29-28 decision. Moving up on the card, these prelims are so good. We have Alonzo Menifield versus Dustin Jacoby. Alonzo Menifield fought, Jimmy Crute in his last two fights, which he got the submission in his last fight. Fight before that was a draw because I believe he grabbed the fence and then got a point deduction. He's all power, doesn't have the greatest grappling. I'm going Dustin Jacoby. I'm going Dustin Jacoby second round TKO. Long, rangy kickboxer, has good striking, has good leg kicks. And I just think that Menifield relies on his power a little bit too much, doesn't have the greatest cardio, can be taken down and controlled. I don't think Jacoby's going to use that. And don't get me wrong, Jacoby does get clipped up with some shots, but I think he'll be able to fire back. I think he's going to land on Menifield's chin. I think Menifield's going to slow down after the first round. I don't think Menifield's going to be able to take Dustin Jacoby down and control him. You look at Dustin Jacoby, 3-inch height advantage, and they actually have the same reach. I thought he was going to have a reach advantage. They're roughly the same, age. And then you look at, his most recent opponents, a win over Kennedy and Zekchuwu. And then before that, has a loss to Azamat Mirzakhanov, not a horrible loss to have. In the Khalil Roundtree fight, he lost via split decision. He should have won that fight. So I think that's, look how well that win would have aged had he got the win over Khalil Roundtree. And Khalil Roundtree is a way better version of Alonzo Menifield, essentially. So unless Alonzo Menifield finds a KO in the first or early second round, I don't think he gets it done. And I think he leaves his chin out there. Jimmy Crute's one of the worst strikers in the division and, was landing some shots on Menifield's chin and out-grappling him. I think Dustin Jacoby will be able to find Menifield's chin. I think he'll be able to put him away. So I'm going to go Dustin Jacoby, second round TKO. Moving up on the card, we have Casey O'Neill versus Ariane Lipski. This is probably one of the, shittier fights on the card. Not really dying to see this matchup by any means. Casey O'Neill, horrible striking. She has some good wrestling. She mixes in the takedowns. Lipski, she's not all that great either. Her last two fights, she got a split decision win over Melissa Gatto. Before that, a win over JJ Aldridge. Before that, a loss against Priscilla Cachueta. Has 4 losses via TKO. So I do wonder about her chin. But I think she's been getting better. I think she has good movements and good movement. And if she can avoid the takedowns of Casey O'Neill, I think she can go out there and outstrike her. Casey O'Neill has horrific striking. Like, I was watching her most recent fight against Jennifer Maia. She's getting tagged up. And I think Lipski's striking is better. I do worry about the wrestling and takedown defense of Lipski, and I do worry about the chin of Lipski. Like, if she's worried about the takedown, can she get clipped by Casey O'Neill? But I'm going to go Lipski via decision. I think it's going to be a hard-fought, kind of ugly fight where Lipski just barely ekes out a decision, where it's kind of controversial. Maybe you can claim robbery, but they're just super low level. But I'm just looking at Casey O'Neill's win. She's got a split decision win over Roxanne Modafferi 2 fights ago. Before that, a win over Antonio Shevchenko, where she was getting boxed up on the feet, used her wrestling in that fight and got it done. So honestly, that fight could go either way, but I'm going to go Ariane Lipski. I'll say 29-28 decision. Gets it done with her striking movement, avoids the takedowns of Casey O'Neill, and gets it done on the feet. Moving up on the card, and this is where the card really starts to get good, we have Cody Garbrandt versus Brian Kelleher. Cody Garbrandt, former bantamweight champion. What a fall he's kind of had, tried to go down the flyweight, got KO'd by Kai Kara France. His last fight against Trevin Jones didn't look particularly good, but got the win there. 3 fights ago, got dominated by Rob Font. It's just crazy that, he barely has any wins since that title win over Dominic Cruz. Brian Kelleher coming off 2 losses against Mario Batista and Umar Nurmagomedov. Last one was against Kevin Kroom. I believe Kelleher was cut at one point in time and then brought back for a short notice fight, and then the fight got canceled, and then they kept him on and gave him this fight against Cody Garbrandt. I'm going Cody Garbrandt. I don't trust Cody Garbrandt anymore, but he has nasty power, nasty leg kicks, good wrestling. We've seen Brian Kelleher get clipped on the chin. We've seen Brian Kelleher out-grappled. And I know Kelleher does have decent power himself, and he has a guillotine. If you shoot a sloppy shot on him, he can guillotine you, which Cody Garbrandt was using his wrestling a lot against Trevin Jones. But I think in his last fight, I think Cody Garbrandt was so hyper-focused on getting the win. I think he was so worried about getting clipped, and I think he was, I just think he was super tentative in that fight because he's worried about losing. He's worried about his career. He's got all this resting on his shoulders and wanted to just get a win. So I think he was super unimpressive. But skill for skill, Cody Garbrandt's faster. I think he's a better wrestler. I think he has more power. I think he's more athletic. He's younger. He's 7 years younger, or not 7 years younger, 5 years younger. He's 32 to Kelleher's 37. So I'm going to go Cody Garbrandt first round KO. I think Cody Garbrandt's going to have a vintage performance, come out there. Brian Kelleher is going to be kind of moving forward, maybe looking to throw big bombs and catch Cody Garbrandt on his chin and put him to sleep. And I think Cody Garbrandt's going to be, using his head movement, has excellent head movement, has excellent boxing. And I think he's going to clip Brian Kelleher, put him down, finish him off with ground and pound. And we're going to get kind of like a vintage performance from Cody Garbrandt. I think it's going to be first or second round KO. I see Garbrandt chopping the legs. I see him coming in with a little bit more confidence. He got it done against Trevin Jones. He doesn't have that massive weight on his shoulder of maybe, now I'm going to be on a 3-fight losing streak and I've lost so many of my last few fights. He got a win under his belt. He's coming in. The UFC kind of set him up with an opponent that's a very winnable fight, and I think he's going to get it done. I'm going to say late first round KO for Cody Garbrandt. Moving up on the card, we have Irene Aldana versus Karol Rosa. And I just said I thought the fight card was getting better from here on out. I mean, the fight card's really good. This is probably one of the crappier fights on the card. Irene Aldana coming off the loss against Amanda Nunes, where she got absolutely destroyed. She has decent boxing. She has decent power. Karol Rosa, she's basically just a bum, honestly. She has a win over Yana Santos, split decision win. I mean, that's someone Aldana's finished semi-recently. Lost to Norma Dumont, has a win over Lena Landsberg, lost to Sarah McMahon. She's 28. She's not particularly good anywhere. She's slow. She likes to clinch. I'm going Irene Aldana via decision. I think she's the better boxer. I think the grappling will be good enough to kind of shuck off the takedown attempts from Rosa, to get out of the clinch with Rosa. And I think, she'll probably piece her up on the feet. But Rosa's kind of tough, kind of durable, and will be able to survive. And I think Aldana will win a clean 30-27 victory. I don't see this being an amazing fight. I hope Aldana goes out there and finishes her and gets a statement win, but I'm not super confident that'll happen. But Rosa is really, really bad. Going back and rewatching some of her fights, I mean, she didn't look that good against Yana Santos, who literally Irene Aldana absolutely savagely beat. And then you look, 2 fights ago, Macy Chaston win from Irene Aldana. I mean, what a crazy up kick to deliver. That was absolutely insane. She was getting out-grappled that fight, so maybe Karol Rosa can come in and out-grapple her, but I don't see that happening. The fight before that was against Yana Santos. Aldana destroyed her. So the most recent losses for Aldana is to Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes. So I see Irene Aldana going out there, using her boxing, stuffing the takedowns, having better movement and footwork, and getting it done via 30-27 decision. Moving up on the card, this is the featured prelim. We have Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. What an amazing matchup this is. Bryce Mitchell stepping in on short notice. This was originally supposed to be, Josh Emmett versus Giga Chikadze. Forgot for a second there. And, I don't like Bryce kind of jumping in on short notice against Josh Emmett. I know Josh Emmett's getting older. He's 38 years old. He's coming off 2 losses, a beatdown against Ilia Topuria and a, triangle submission loss to Yair Rodriguez in the interim title fight. But Josh Emmett has good striking. He's super powerful, and he has good wrestling as well. He's not the most elite kickboxer ever, but Bryce Mitchell relies on his pressure and his wrestling and his takedown and submission ability. He's coming off a win over Dan Ige, which I thought he lost. I thought he lost the fight. Didn't do very much damage, was controlling Dan Ige, but didn't do a whole lot of damage. I thought he lost 29-28 in that fight. Fight before that got absolutely destroyed by Ilia Topuria and finished. He had a lot of excuses afterwards. But coming in on short notice, even a full camp, Bryce Mitchell, I wouldn't like his chances against Josh Emmett because Josh Emmett does have good takedown defense. And, Bryce leaves his chin open and he can get clipped with a lot of shots. And Josh Emmett is kind of like a featherweight Michael Chandler. Just squats down and throws those overhand rights and lands nasty power. And, Bryce is super durable, so I don't know if Emmett's going to be able to finish him. But I think Emmett's going to piece him up on the feet. He has that low center of gravity. He knows what Bryce Mitchell is going to come in and try to do. He's going to try to take him down. I think if Bryce can get him down, I think Bryce could find a submission. Josh Emmett's not necessarily known for his BJJ. He got submitted from Yair Rodriguez. Yair was on his back when he got submitted. So I could see Bryce being able to work a submission and get it done. But I think Emmett's going to play it safe. I think he's going to just box him up, box him up and move. You look at Emmett, his last few wins, Calvin Kattar win. I know that was a close fight, but that's a decent win against Calvin Kattar. Win against Dan Ige, who I thought Bryce lost to. To be fair enough, I actually thought Ige slightly edged out Emmett as well. And then a win over Shane Burgos. So I think Emmett just has more experience. I think he has the better striking. I think he has good enough wrestling to stuff the takedowns of Bryce because Bryce doesn't have the best entries. He just kind of bum rushes forward. And that's why I could see him getting clipped and KO'd against Josh Emmett. But I think he's going to get clipped. I think he's going to get hurt badly. I think he's going to get busted up. But I think he's going to be able to survive just because Bryce, he's not a guy, he's only lost one fight, and that's the Ilia Topuria via submission. So it's not like Bryce has taken a lot of damage over the course of his career where he's going to get his lights shut off. So I'm going to go Josh Emmett via decision. I see this being kind of, a relatively easy fight for Josh Emmett, I think it'll probably be a 30-27 win for Josh Emmett. Maybe the third round, Josh Emmett gets tired. Maybe Bryce gets a takedown and lands some damage in the third round. But we've seen Josh Emmett headline fight night cards, go 5 rounds. I don't think that's very likely. So unless Bryce, his wrestling is just on point and is able to shoot through Josh Emmett, because Josh Emmett was training for Giga Chikadze. So maybe Josh Emmett's not prepared for a wrestler. Maybe he's been kind of, brushing up on his kickboxing and he's not ready for a guy like Bryce. And Bryce was in the gym this whole time. Maybe Bryce gets it done with his wrestling. If Bryce gets it done, I could see him getting it done with a submission. But I'm going to go Josh Emmett via pretty clear decision. I'm going to say 30-27 decision win for Josh Emmett. Moving up on the card, the first fight on the pay-per-view main card, we have Vicente Luque versus Ian Machado Garry. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. This is a perfect kind of, move up fight for Ian Machado Garry. I love this fight to test Ian Machado Garry's skill set. Coming off that big win against Neil Magny where he absolutely wrecked Neil Magny. I think one judge scored at 30-24, was just chopping the legs. Wasn't able to get a finish, but who's TKO in Neil Magny? I don't think Neil Magny's been TKO'd probably in like 5-6 years. He's been submitted, but he hasn't been TKO'd in a while, so I don't take too much away from him on that. Fight before that finishes Daniel Rodriguez. Fight before that finishes Kenan Song. Did get clipped up in that fight. Vicente Luque's coming off kind of a lackluster win and performance against Rafael Dos Anjos. Before that, lost to Jeff Neal, got finished there. Before that, got dominated by Bilal Muhammad. I'm going Ian Machado Garry via second round TKO. We've seen Vicente Luque just get clipped up by crisper strikers. We've seen it happen against Jeff Neal. And I think, the damage that he took in that fight, and he had a brain bleed, and he took some time off. I think he came back, and he was kind of scared of getting hit a bit. And he was, against RDA, he won a lot with kind of clinching and takedowns. And, I think he could mix in the grappling against Ian Machado Garry, but I don't think he's going to be super successful with it. I mean, Neil Magny tried and failed, and while we haven't seen Garry's grappling tested, by a very, elite level grappler, that's not Vicente Luque. And you look over Vicente Luque's career, Jeff Neal, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, these guys who are really crisp strikers, who have good footwork, who have good straight punches, really piece up Vicente Luque. I mean, Wonderboy Thompson beat the brakes off of him back at, I think it was UFC 244. I was actually there live for that fight as well. Just pieced him up right down straight in between the guard. And Ian Garry has those types of shots. He's got really good movement. He's improving from fight to fight. He's super young. He's 26 years old. Vicente Luque's 32 years old. And has only fought kind of, one or three times over the past 2 years. So not super active, but not as inactive as I remember. But he was out for almost a year and a half before the most recent fight against Dos Anjos. Didn't look all that impressive in that fight. And Dos Anjos has landed some good shots. And Luque's not known for crazy power. But I just think Ian Machado Garry goes out there, uses his straight punches, uses his kicks, because Ian Garry's kicks are next level. Nasty leg kicks, nasty body kicks, nasty head kicks. He does leave his chin out there. And Vicente Luque, while he doesn't have like nuclear KO power, I could see him finding Ian Garry's chin a little bit, but I think Ian Garry will be able to take those shots. Hasn't taken a whole lot of damage in his career. He's 13-0. I know he did get dropped by Song, but then since then, I think he's improved. He's got, multiple wins since then. He's super young, improving. I think he goes out there and chins Vicente Luque. I think Vicente Luque will do all right in the first round, but I think Ian Garry will clearly win it with his kicks. I think he'll be chopping the legs. I think he'll be deep into the body. I think he'll be moving well. I think Vicente Luque is going to try to clinch up. We've seen Ian Garry was very strong in the clinch against Neil Magny, and I know Neil Magny was on short notice, but he was training for a fight around that time anyway, so it's not like he was out of shape. And, Neil Magny didn't have a whole lot of success in the clinch, in the grappling, which is where Neil Magny's kind of known to be good at. So I think Ian Garry goes out there, is able to shrug off any takedown attempts from Vicente Luque. I think it'll be a striking battle. I think Luque will have some moments, but I think Garry will find a shot in that second round. I'm going to say high kick in the second round, hurts Vicente Luque, and then Ian Garry just goes after him and just lands flurries, land combinations, and drops Vicente Luque and finishes him off with a ground and pound. I just don't think Luque's the same from that beating from Jeff Neal. I think that took some years off his life, and I think also that made him more tentative knowing that he has that brain injury or had that brain injury. I think he's worried about getting hit. And I think once Ian Machado Garry hurts him badly and starts putting it on him, I think he's just going to worry about covering up. And I think Ian Garry is going to get a second round TKO over Vicente Luque. Moving up on the card, we have Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. I'm going to be honest, I've switched back and forth on this pick in the last hour or so, and I've really been nailing down my predictions. Paddy Pimblett's a bum. He's bottom of the barrel. He got overhyped because he's from the UK. And his last fight against Jarrett Gordon, he shouldn't even won it. Jarrett Gordon's not all that good. Fight before that, Jordan Levitt, got a submission there. Jordan Levitt's not all that good, just lost to Chase Hooper. And Jordan Levitt had some moments early in that fight. Fight before that, Rodrigo Vargas, Paddy Pimblett's getting clipped up. But to look at Tony Ferguson, and it's so sad, Tony Ferguson's on a 6-fight losing streak, has gotten finished in his last 3, got finished against Bobby Green, got finished against Nate Diaz, got finished against Michael Chandler. I'm going to go Paddy Pimblett via decision. I think Tony Ferguson could win this fight. And I did have him originally picked after I watched Tony's most recent fight against Bobby Green. I watched Paddy Pimblett's most recent fight against Jarrett Gordon. But I just can't. It's just not in me to pick Tony. It's not in me. Like, I'd rather pick Paddy Pimblett and then be pleasantly surprised that Tony gets it done rather than pick Tony and be like, why did I do this? Tony's 39 years old. He's a dead body at this point. I mean, we should be... he should be in retirement. This fight's making me depressed. The fact that he's going to lose to Paddy is going to be so depressing. But I think Pimblett has good kicks, doesn't have the best grappling. I could see Tony Ferguson out wrestling him. Tony has just relied on his power, pressure, and volume for too long. And maybe he gets it done against Paddy. I could see him going out there and wrestling Paddy and, beating Paddy up in the clinch and taking him down and being a really ugly fight, but Tony Ferguson gets it done. But I just think Pimblett has had some time off. I think he's probably worked on some of the weaknesses in his game. Meanwhile, Tony's, he doesn't know what he's drinking and driving. He's saying weird stuff about fighting for the title. He's delusional. And, I just don't see him making the adequate adjustments to go out there and get a clean win against Paddy Pimblett. I think if he came out here with a super smart game plan to mix in the wrestling, really get some control time and get a win no matter what, I think maybe he could get it done because I do think he has the better stamina. Tony Ferguson has amazing stamina. That's what he's been known for many years. But I see Paddy Pimblett just kind of blasting the legs, using his movement, blasting kicks to the body, landing combinations upstairs as Tony kind of moves in. Tony's always been very hittable. What made him elite was his pressure and stamina and to overwhelm guys. And, it's the fact that he's 39 years old. He's slowing down. He's not as good as he once was, not as fast as he once was. Does a lot of turns and spins and just leaves himself susceptible to eating big shots. I see Pimblett just kind of beating him up and it just being a sad fight. I don't think Pimlet's going to come out of this fight looking super impressive. I could see Tony Ferguson having some moments, and I'll be here cheering him on. But I think Paddy Pimblett gets it done via decision. I don't know what the scorecard's going to be. Maybe Tony Ferguson ekes out the first round. Looked very good in the first round against Bobby Green. And I know Tony's fought much better competition. Bobby Green, Nate Diaz. I mean, Nate Diaz is not that good, but Michael Chandler, Beneil Dariush, Charles Oliveira. But still, I don't trust him at 39 years old, 6-fight losing streak. Where's his confidence going to be at? Where's it got to be at right now? I don't think he gets it done. I think Paddy Pimblett gets it done via decision, but I will be rooting for Tony Ferguson all the way. Moving up on the card, the featured fight on the main card, we have Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson literally is being held at gunpoint to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov. He avoided this fight like the plague for the last year and a half. And the UFC basically said, you're fighting Shavkat or we're going to keep extending your contract and we're not going to pay you for the fight you turned down against Michel Pereira, where he missed weight, which was kind of unfair to Wonderboy, but I don't feel good about it. You know, I've been saying, Wonderboy has been asking for selective fights and then he turns down a guy who misses weight. So I'm kind of like stuck in between. But I think Shavkat Rakhmonov gets it done. I think he's going to destroy Wonderboy Thompson. I'm watching their most recent fights. And, as a person who's seen Wonderboy Thompson debut in the UFC, watching his most recent fight against Kevin Holland, he's slowed down so much. His footwork isn't what it once was. His speed isn't what it once was. His durability isn't what it once was. His takedown defense isn't what it once was. At some point in time in the Kevin Holland fight, like Kevin Holland caught him off balance, easy takedown against Wonderboy. Let him back up, but easy takedowns. And Shavkat is so well-rounded. He's nasty on the feet. He gets hit a bit, but it's against Jeff Neal, who has crisp boxing. And I know Wonderboy has crisp boxing as well, and even outboxed Jeff Neal a while ago. But I just think Shavkat has more power. I think he's going to be marching forward. And I think the killer of this fight is going to be the clinch game. Shavkat is nasty in the clinch. Knees to the body, elbow upstairs. He'll be just slaughtering Wonderboy. I think he'll be clinching with him, kneeing him to the body, kicking the legs, pumping the jab, walking through shots, mixing in the takedowns, mixing in the spinning techniques. He has crazy spinning techniques. He's just super athletic, super explosive. There's not a lot of holes in Shavkat's game outside of he does get clipped up quite a bit, but he has a good chin, and it's not like Wonderboy's known for his finishing power. Unless he catches Shavkat with like a nasty kick, I don't see Wonderboy being able to go out there and get a finish here. I think he's got to get a decision win. And I think even if, let's say, he goes out there and outstrikes Rakhmonov, I think Shavkat will be able to shoot takedowns, get him down, beat him up on the ground, and find a submission that way. So I'm going to go Shavkat Rakhmonov first round KO. I think Wonderboy's going to be worried about the takedown. He's going to be tentative on the feet. I think Shavkat's going to be clinching up, knee into the body, using elbows over the top, and then just kind of lull Wonderboy into kind of a war. And then even on the feet, he's going to be marching him down and just landing combinations, ripping to the body, ripping leg kicks, coming upstairs with big punches as well. And he's going to be eating Wonderboy's shots and keep marching forward. And Wonderboy's going to start getting PTSD. Why did I accept this fight against a wrestler? And then Shavkat's going to shoot in on a takedown, get him down, control him a bit, beat him up. And I think eventually, in this fight, it's just going to be Wonderboy's fear of the takedown that's really going to cost him the fight, because I think Shavkat can put everything together so well. And I think he'll mix in a shot, even if he doesn't 100% go for it. And Wonderboy might defend it, but they might just end up in the clinch. And then boom, Shavkat comes over the top with an elbow, lands some good knees into the body, and then kind of releases and then starts landing combinations. I think he's going to melt Wonderboy. And I think he's going to brutally finish him in the first round. I'm going to go Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'm going to say mid-first round TKO. And I think it's going to be an absolute mauling where you're just seeing Wonderboy like, oh shit, what's going on here? What did I do? Why did I accept this fight? I should have sat out. I should have never took the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight. And I think Shavkat is just going to body him in the first round via TKO. I think the final shot that's going to hurt him, I'm going to say it's going to be a nasty elbow over the top that drops Wonderboy. And I think Shavkat's going to finish him off with ground and pound. Moving up on the card, the co-main event, we have Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval 2 for the flyweight title. This is the best fight on the card stylistically. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't care about the flyweights. This is a straight up banger fight. And this is a tough fight to pick. This is one of the toughest fights on the card to pick. I'm going to go Brandon Royval, and I'm going to go Brandon Royval third round TKO. I'm watching their first fight, which was 2 years ago. Brandon Royval is so scrappy, and sometimes it's not for the best interest of, the fight and, the game plan he should have. Because against a guy like Pantoja who likes chaos, when you're a guy like Royval, when you're going out there and throwing all these spinning techniques, the reason he ended up getting taken down and giving up his back and getting submitted in the first fight against Royval or against Pantoja was because he kind of overthrew some shots and boom, you had Pantoja grab his back, take him down, and get the rear naked choke. But before that, you've seen Royval being able to survive on the ground with him. You've seen him be able to scramble out. You've seen him land big shots on the feet as well. I think he's going to come into this fight with a little bit different approach. I think he's still going to be chaotic. I think he's still going to be super scrappy. I think he's still going to throw a lot of volume. But I think he's going to be more careful because I think he realizes, look, if Pantoja can't get me to the ground and sub me, I can beat this guy on the feet. And I know Pantoja has good power on the feet, but Royval has a great chin. And you look at Royval's most recent fights, KO over Mateus Nicolau. Fight before that, a submission over Matt Schnell. Fight before that, a win over Rogerio Bontorin. Also has a win over Kai Kara France as well. The losses are to Pantoja and Moreno. Moreno fight, we didn't really get to see it play out because he injured his shoulder. Shoulder came out of socket when they were grappling. So he ended up getting TKO'd, but we really didn't get to see that fight play out. It was even up until that point. The fight against Pantoja, you could make an argument that Royval was, winning that second round before he got submitted. He was landing on the feet. And meanwhile, you have Pantoja who fought, 4 or 5 months ago against Brandon Moreno, outright war, and doesn't have the greatest stamina, kind of, looks to just create chaos, to create some back exposure and jump on your back and look for a rear naked choke. So I think if Royval can keep Pantoja off of his back and fight smart early and just kind of land combinations, footwork, get out of there. And when Pantoja does initiate the takedowns, Royval sprawls, gets out of there. They end up in the clinch, Royval just gets out of there, lands some shots, gets out of there. I think if he fights this more measured approach, but still throws good combinations, still has a lot of volume, I think eventually Pantoja will wilt. I think he'll start getting more aggressive. I think he'll start getting more frustrated. And Royval has nasty finishing ability. He's finished so many of his fights. He has a lot of TKOs. He has a lot of submission wins as well. I could even see him. There could be a chance Royval hurts Pantoja and then snatches up a guillotine on a sloppy takedown attempt from Pantoja. But I just think Royval's so scrappy. I think this fight is of such importance. I think he's going to come in here with a little bit more measured game plan, and I think he's going to get it done, and I think he has way better stamina than Pantoja. I think Pantoja's stamina has improved, but also I just don't trust the fact that Pantoja is coming back. It's not super quick. It's not a super quick turnaround, but 4 months ago, he had that war with Brandon Moreno. There was a lot of damage dished out, and I thought Pantoja lost that fight. It was very close. I did not think it was a robbery by any means, but what won Pantoja that fight was getting on Moreno's back and just kind of staying there and not doing a whole lot of damage. I think that's what Pantoja is going to try to do in this fight, and I think sometimes Royval is so focused on scrambling, he gives up bad positions, and maybe that happens in this fight. If Pantoja wins, I'd pick Pantoja by rear naked choke. But I think Royval is going to come in here measured. He's going to use his footwork. He's going to use the large octagon. He's going to piece up Pantoja. Pantoja is going to land some shots, maybe even get a takedown or two, but I think Royval is going to scramble out, get back to his feet, and just circle, land combinations, circle, and eventually find a kill shot. As Pantoja starts to get frustrated in that third round, starts wading forward even more with his chin exposed, and I think Brandon Royval is going to clip him on the chin, put him down, and finish him off with ground and pound, and we're going to have a new flyweight champion. I know it's crazy, considering, Pantoja does have a win over him not that long ago. I think Royval's gotten a lot better, and Royval's also a little bit younger. He's 31 years old, just turned 31, where Pantoja is getting ready to turn 34. So I think he's younger, he's faster, he has better footwork, has better striking. I think Pantoja does have a little bit of a power advantage and a jiu-jitsu advantage, but I think if Royval can stay out of, those positions where Pantoja, because Royval gets sloppy with spinning back elbows or whatever it may be, and Pantoja jumps on his back and gets the body triangle, if he can stay out of that one position, I think Royval gets it done. But that's a big if. I'm going Brandon Royval, third round TKO. Moving up on the card to the main event, we have Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington for the welterweight title. What a main event this is. I know I've been crapping on this fight, and I'll get that out of the way right away. Colby Covington does not deserve a title shot. But what people don't understand is I'm not saying that this isn't a great fight. This is a very good stylistic matchup. Both guys are very good fighters, and I am looking forward to the fight itself. I just care a lot about meritocracy, even though it doesn't always exist. But this is an interesting fight. I think a lot of people are way kind of overconfident in Leon Edwards, and my early prediction for this fight was Colby Covington. And I can see Colby Covington going out there and just kind of marauding his way to a championship win over Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards, sometimes he just kind of gets too complacent with his back up against the fence, defending takedowns, staying on his feet, and doesn't really focus in on getting out of those positions. But Colby Covington, he's 35 years old, almost 36. He hasn't fought in over a year and a half. His last win was against the dead body of Jorge Masvidal. And what's crazy is I went back and rewatched that fight. A lot more competitive than I remember. Jorge defended some takedowns well. I mean, it was a clear Colby win, and he won with the grappling, but Masvidal defended takedowns more than I remember. Masvidal landed more on the feet than I remember, landed a lot of leg kicks that were affecting Colby Covington in that fight as well. And meanwhile, you have Leon Edwards, who hasn't been super active, but look at his last two fights where Kamaru Usman, who's essentially a more powerful version of Colby Covington. They're a little bit different, but wrestling heavy fighters who have unlimited stamina. That's essentially what Colby Covington is. But Kamaru Usman has power. And Leon Edwards has essentially been training for Kamaru Usman since, early 2022 when he found out he's getting the title shot at, I don't remember what event it was off the top of my head. But when he got the head kick KO against Kamaru Usman, and he did get out grappled in that fight. And then in the third fight, I actually think it was closer than a lot of people think, but nonetheless, he gets it done. And what does he do? He stuffs the takedowns, he uses his footwork, and he kicks the legs, and he lands combinations from distance. And, it's just hard for me to trust Colby Covington coming back from a long layoff, knowing that his striking isn't that good, and he's just going to shoot in on takedowns against Leon Edwards and get takedowns. I find it hard to believe. If Colby wins this fight, he'll win it in the clinch, and he'll win it with some takedowns and some control time and kind of wilting Leon Edwards' cardio. But I'm going to go Leon Edwards via decision. I just think, you look at it, we're almost in 2024. We're at the end of 2023. So for 2 years straight, Leon Edwards has been training literally for Colby Covington, essentially, because Kamaru Usman is a version of Colby Covington. He's training to stuff the takedowns. He's training to strike at range. He's training to kind of use kicks, teep kicks, leg kicks, and just batter you from a distance and use his footwork to circle out. And he's been training cage fighting and, kind of positional control in the clinch and circling out. I just think that's a recipe where Leon Edwards can go out there and he can do this stuff in his sleep at this point. And unless Colby just holds him there and just holds on to him and holds on to him and holds on to him and wins a decision, a very boring decision, I think Leon Edwards gets it done. I think he'll be able to stuff the takedowns. I think he'll be able to circle out. I think he'll be able to kick the legs of Colby Covington. I think he'll be able to counter him as Colby rushes in. Colby rushes in with his chin straight up in the air. And, even Masvidal dropped into a knee. I think it was in the fourth round, dropped into a knee. So I think Leon Edwards, and also Leon Edwards is 32 years old. Colby's 36. Usman's getting up there in age as well. So Leon Edwards is arguably hitting his prime. Colby's arguably on the decline. He's had a long time out, had a long layoff, hiding in witness protection. And I just think Leon Edwards is able to get the job done. But I do think a lot of people are underestimating Colby Covington. It would not shock me whatsoever if Colby Covington was able to go out there and get a decision win. I don't think Colby's going to go out there and starch Leon. I'd be shocked if he KO'd him. Colby doesn't really have any power, doesn't really have any finishes, doesn't even have any ranked wins recently. Nobody on his current resume is ranked in the welterweight top 15, which is absolutely crazy. So I look at Leon Edwards, I'm seeing 2 wins over Kamaru Usman. I know the Nate Diaz fight wasn't that good. I know the Bilal Muhammad fight we didn't get to see it play out. People act like, Leon Edwards was dominating him. Really, that's not really the case all that much. But I just see Leon Edwards winning 2 fights against Kamaru Usman. And then you have Colby Covington, who his biggest career accomplishment is losing to Kamaru Usman. So Colby's going to try to wrestle like his life depends on it. This is going to be his last chance at a title, most likely. I don't think it's going to work. I think Leon will defend the takedowns. I think Leon will be able to do some work in the clinch, land some short, dirty boxing shots, land some knees to the body, circle out, start chopping the leg of Colby Covington. Colby's super durable, though. I don't see Colby really getting finished in this fight unless he gets clipped by one of those masterful head kicks of Leon Edwards. But Leon's not known for his finishing ability. So I see this kind of being a fight where Leon's just kind of avoiding the takedown of Colby, avoiding the clinch of Colby, and just kind of picking him apart from the outside with leg kicks and kicks to the body and some counters. I think Leon Edwards wins this fight. I'm going to say 49-46. I'm going to say Colby Covington gets at least 1 round, but don't be shocked if it's a lot closer because Colby could land some combinations, get into the clinch, get some control time. The next thing you know, a minute and a half has gone by. Leon Edwards has been fighting out of the clinch. Then they break, and then Colby Covington fights right back into the clinch and gets some more control time. So don't be shocked if this is like a close fight where you get like a 3-2 win for Leon Edwards. But ultimately, I think Leon Edwards gets the decision win. I'm going to say 49-46. But I am really looking forward to this card. I'll be live streaming the entire event on Saturday. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Let me know what you guys think of the predictions down in the comments. Let me know who you're picking in the main and co-main event. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.